Good evening from Tianjin, China, where the skyline of this northern port city has been transformed into a stage of diplomacy, spectacle, and symbolism. Tonight, leaders of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, representing nearly half the world's population, have convened for one of the most consequential summits of recent years. Yet amid the handshakes and closed-door talks, it was Russian President Vladimir Putin who delivered the most unexpected announcement, not about war, not about energy, but about music. In the midst of tense geopolitics, Putin used this summit to advertise Russia's revival of Intervision, a song contest once forgotten, now resurrected as Moscow's cultural answer to Eurovision, the Western spectacle that excluded Russian artists after the invasion of Ukraine. To understand the significance of this move, we must look closely at both the setting and the history. The summit itself was meticulously choreographed. Cameras captured Putin walking side by side with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, their hands briefly linked, a gesture meant to show solidarity. Moments later, he stood with China's Xi Jinping, their conversation subtle yet symbolic of an alliance deepening under Western pressure. These images are not accidental. They are part of a carefully crafted message. Russia is not alone. Elsewhere in the venue, Putin spoke with Tajikistan's President Emomali Rahmon, reaffirming Moscow's role as Central Asia's longtime anchor. And in another striking moment, he was seen arriving with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, a NATO member who nevertheless maintains ties with Moscow, highlighting the blurred lines of today's shifting global order. Even the details, the Russian tricolour flag gleaming on Putin's car, the tea service carried by waiters in the summit hall, played their role in reinforcing a narrative of formality, legitimacy, and continuity. But then the script shifted. On camera, with the SCO's banners behind him, Putin turned to the subject of culture. He declared, "I would like to take this opportunity to mention that on September 20th, Moscow will host the international television popular song contest, Intervision. This large-scale project is aimed at promoting universal cultural and spiritual values. The statement may have surprised some, but for those familiar with Cold War history, it resonated with striking familiarity. Intervision was first created in the 1960s as the Soviet bloc's answer to Eurovision. While Western Europe cheered on ABBA and Celine Dion, Eastern Europe showcased its own stars in Sopot, Poland, with Moscow pulling the strings. It was a cultural counterweight, a stage for propaganda, and a reminder that even music could become a weapon in the battle of ideologies. Putin did not stop there. He continued, "The competition has already generated keen interest. Artists from many countries have confirmed their participation, including those represented at today's meeting. These traditional values are already fading into the background of the international agenda. It's time to bring them back." In these words lies the heart of the project. Eurovision for decades has been a celebration of European integration and openness. But in Russia's eyes, it has also become politicized, biased, and exclusionary. By banning Russian singers after the Ukraine war began, the West closed one cultural door. Now Putin is opening another. Intervision is framed not just as entertainment, but as a sanctuary for traditional values, a phrase that in Kremlin rhetoric often stands against what Moscow portrays as Western decadence and liberal excess. This is soft power, Russian style. The Kremlin knows that culture, like oil or arms, can be an export. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union exported ballet, classical music, literature, and carefully curated ideals of socialist art. Today, under sanctions and isolation, Russia is reaching back to that playbook, and the SCO summit provides the perfect audience: China, India, Turkey, Central Asia, and beyond. These nations may not all share Russia's worldview, but they share one thing in common. They refuse to fully align with the West. Consider the timing. As Putin speaks of Intervision, Russia continues its grinding war in Ukraine. Its economy remains under Western sanctions. Its sports teams are banned from many competitions. Eurovision, one of Europe's most watched cultural exports, remains firmly closed to Russian performers. Against that backdrop, Moscow's cultural isolation mirrors its political one. And yet, in Tianjin, Putin reframes exclusion as opportunity. If Europe will not host Russian singers, then Russia will host the world's alternative. It is not merely about music, it is about legitimacy. By persuading artists from SCO states, from Africa, from the Middle East to participate, Moscow can claim that its cultural sphere is alive, expanding, and global. What might appear to be a simple stage performance becomes an instrument of statecraft. This is why Tianjin matters. The SCO has always been more than an economic or security bloc. It is a vision of multipolarity, a world where the West no longer dictates the rules. And here, Putin's announcement slips seamlessly into that narrative. He is not only challenging NATO or the European Union, he is challenging Eurovision, an institution of Western cultural identity. Critics will argue that Intervision cannot compete with Eurovision's glitter, its decades of popularity, its massive audiences, and they may be right, at least for now. But history shows that cultural projects, when tied to politics, can have outsized influence. During the Cold War, the United States wielded jazz tours, Hollywood films, and pop icons as ambassadors of freedom. The Soviet Union countered with Moscow's Bolshoi Ballet, state-backed choirs, and Intervision itself. These were not sideshows, they were battles of perception. Fast forward to today, and the world once again feels divided into blocs. On one side, the US and Europe, united through NATO and the EU, but also through symbols like Eurovision. On the other, a Eurasian axis, more fragmented but increasingly assertive, searching for its own symbols. By reviving Intervision, Putin is attempting to supply exactly that, a shared cultural emblem that says to the world, we too can sing and we too can define values. From Tianjin, the message is amplified. China, hosting the summit, showcases its own vision of global leadership. Modi, standing alongside Putin and Xi, signals India's balancing act between East and West. Erdogan, straddling NATO membership and Eurasian outreach, underscores the complexity of alliances. Against this mosaic of interests, Putin's cultural gambit may seem small. Yet, as history teaches us, it is often the small gestures, a song, a performance, a festival, that leave lasting imprints on the international psyche. And so, as the summit's cameras pan across handshakes, speeches, and ceremonial teas, the announcement of Intervision lingers. It reminds us that Russia's confrontation with the West is not fought only with tanks and sanctions, but also with melodies and lyrics. That culture remains one of the most enduring weapons in geopolitics, and that, in Putin's view, the battle for hearts and minds can be staged not only in battlefields or boardrooms, but on a brightly lit stage in Moscow, filled with music, applause, and symbolism. Tonight, Tianjin stands as the intersection of power and performance. The SCO summit has delivered its usual declarations of cooperation and unity, but it also delivered an echo from the Cold War, reframed for the 21st century. Intervision is back, and with it, the reminder that in the theatre of global politics, even a song can become a weapon and even a stage can become a battlefield. From Tianjin, this is the story of Putin's song contest, a tale of culture and confrontation, of nostalgia and ambition, of East and West once again divided by more than borders, but by the music they choose to sing.